everyone, this is Joan and Callie from Q and Abe, a podcast by President Lincoln's Cottage.
While we're talking to many different folks for the show, we sometimes end up with interesting bits that don't quite fit in the main episode, but we don't think that should keep you all from hearing them.
This bonus episode accompanies episode 7.1. Have you seen Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter? So if you haven't listened to that one yet, it might be a good place to start.
Elizabeth Richmond-Garza, scholar of the Gothic, made connections for us about why the director of the movie might have been particularly suited to this material.
I really find Timur Bekmambietov's work fascinating. Actually, this film was crucial to his career as part of his move from Russia to the United States so as to be able to work with Hollywood-style films. So I think that Timur Bekmambietov was keen to work on the United States, and he had a track record of extraordinary success working with the Gothic. That's remarkable in a Russian context because although there are some Gothic texts in Russian, Gothic isn't a major genre fiction mode in Russian literature, despite there being a couple of very, well-admired examples of it. So I think he wanted to move to the US. Also, I don't know if it rings in your ears exactly, but his name indicates that he's not ethnically Russian, though he's Russian-speaking and part of the broader territories that were controlled by the Russian Empire and the Soviet Union, and now the Confederation of Independent States. So actually, he has a real interest in race and ethnicity. And that's both in the novels that he adapted and in his adaptations of it on the Russian side. But I think he was actually drawn to the content about diversity in the US. So I think he was very interested in the specificity of the gambit of the novel in adapting it to the film, and that is that it was about enslaved persons and about their relationship to plantation owners. And that's something that also resonates with Russian history because of the system of serfdom, which isn't identical with slavery, but it does tie humans to land, and the landowner controls whether the human can leave or not. So it's a kind of indirect ownership of human beings taking place there. So there's some real natural affinities between him and his specific work, and also between, if you like, a Russian, especially a non-ethnic white Russian, in relationship to the topic of enslavement and parasitism.
We also asked all our guests, would you recommend this movie?
That's actually a very easy question to answer because I teach parts of it. So I recommend it to 250 undergraduates every fall semester in my Art of the Uncanny class. I'm always very careful. I don't recommend films with lots of violence in it. And I always say to people, it's got vampire violence in it. So it's got lots of blood and gore, but it's all very, very make-believe. That being said, I always am very mindful. I don't want people to feel unsafe. I don't want them to encounter something that is terrifying in a counterproductive way. So I think anyone who's interested in the Gothic enjoys it. People who are it's got good actors in it as well. So it's quite well done. To me, the CG is a little over the top. I think it would actually be better if it was a little bit more live and real action. But any fan of the Gothic and anyone who can deal with a little vampire violence, I think it's very, very interesting. And paralleling it with, I also teach the original Night Watch, Bekmambietov's first vampire movie, the Russian one, which is actually, I think it's even better. It's in Russian, so you have to read it or learn Russian, but it's really, really good.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. I just saw it again recently. I hadn't seen it for quite a while, but it's got all the ridiculousness that you would hope for something called Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I mean, the scene where he's fighting Barts on the horseback on horseback was just so over the top that, of course, this is what Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter is as a movie. Of course it is.
I think if you can get a group of people together who know a little bit about the 19th century, who know about the past, who know about Lincoln, and who can watch it in a kind of a winking and enjoyable way, I think it's delicious. I think it's delightful. Would I recommend this to the average, person just looking for something fun to watch on a weekend night? I might point them in some other directions first before this one.
We followed Scott's advice and got a group of people together to watch the movie. Here's what our staff had to say after our in-house showing.
In his defense, did not know what it was about before doing
she's
that.
Wait for the play.
Oh,
no! No!
We had no idea this is how it was going to end.
No! This is the biggest
Spoilers!
Harry, darling, have you seen my hat?
On your desk in the office.
Have you seen my hat? Abraham, an
Let me make you immortal. Let us fight through the ages side by side.
Vampires are not the only things that live forever. History prefers legends to men. It prefers nobility to brutality, soaring speeches to quiet deeds. History remembers the battle and forgets the blood. However, history remembers me if it does at all. It shall only remember a fraction of the truth.
Are you telling me that he could have been a vampire in Mamma Mia?
Yes.
I think this is
Yes.
canon.
Canon event.
He lived
Kiss
through
a
it.
girl or kill a man. So which
Is this
is it?
supposed to be Obama?
Wait, is it? Wait. Was that Obama? Was that Obama?
He said the same thing he said to me.
Was that Obama? 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 I don't know.
That's what I think.
Obama, Vampire Slayer?
Okay, nobody moved just yet.
You can't tell me what's your feeling.
Does anybody really want to watch the credits? Okay.
Oh, we're playing something new now.
This movie is brought to you with limited
I love limited interruptions. Those are the best kind of interruptions.
Thoughts, feelings, impressions.
All the awards.
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. Interesting.
What was it?
Lost in acts.
I
Just
rate-
thoughts, impressions.
I rate 8 out of 10
knew that
silver.
Mary was
Forks.
going to kill that girl, even
Yeah.
though I never watched it. So I am so glad my prediction came true.
You called it. Do you think this movie is a valuable part of the Lincoln canon? Or is it silly nonsense? Or
I mean, like, on a serious note, I think it does kind of show, like, how huge, like, Abe Lincoln is in our culture. So it's valuable from that perspective.
I think historically it's probably not like the most valuable resource I would turn to, but I was entertained, and there were certain points that they hit that I was like, yeah, that's true, that's relevant, like
And
that's, you know.
I do wish they'd explored this more, but I do think that the actual idea of, like, vampires being enslavers is, like, kind of a legitimately interesting idea. I think that it's, like, legitimately interesting. Like, you're literally sucking the life force out of someone, basically parasiting yourself off someone else. Like, that's an interesting idea. I kind of wish they'd actually run more in that direction than they ultimately did.
I bet if it were written in 2025, it would be a little less white savory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was like. I was gonna say they barely showed like any like enslaved people or like the realities of slavery that was going on.
They showed in the beginning, but that was it.
No. They weren't even enslaved people. They were just treating them poorly.
Bad.
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, that's something the book actually goes more into in the movie. I don't know.
I don't remember. If you were going to make a movie about Abraham Lincoln, what would your twist be?
That's a tough
Or your mashup? Or
I would make a movie about him being an insomniac, but twist, he's the vampire the whole time, and he only can just like stay up during the night.
So sticking with the vampire theme, but leaning into the insomnia. That's good.
I will run with that.
Or make him a werewolf.
I will run with that and put Mary as the one hunting him. But she
enemies
doesn't
to lovers plot.
Like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but Abraham Lincoln and also vampires.
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah.
That Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln. Boom.
Yeah.
There's the title.
Wow, Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln. There's something there. Call someone. Jess, would you recommend this to our visitors?
I would say if you're a big Lincoln fan, you have a sense of humor, but you also hold space for the fact that this is not like an actually like historic thing. Yeah, I would recommend it. Like, have a good time, watch it, be a little goofy, be a little silly.
I would absolutely recommend it. 10 out of 10. You should absolutely watch this absolute peak masterpiece. How did this movie not win all the Oscars, and how have you not seen it? Your life will not be complete until you have watched this movie. That is going to be what I say.
Great.
I would recommend it if you want to be on the edge of your feet. Or the edge of your seat. I'm sorry.
Whichever
you want to
one.
be on the whichever
Standing,
one.
sitting, you're on the edge.
If you just want to be entertained, then yes, I'll recommend it.
Did you enjoy it?
You know,
Oh my gosh, Cameron.
I'm not an action person. You know what I enjoyed? This is what I would recommend. I enjoyed watching it with this group and like hearing all the reactions. So I would say if you're wanting to sit down and like watch something by yourself, maybe don't pick this one. If you want to like have fun with friends, you should totally pick this one.
If you like to watch movies that are so bad, it's funny, it's good.
Yeah.
Here's
And people are, yeah, exactly. It was fun. Yeah.
Hannah?
Yes, but it's scary.
There were some jump scares.
Listen, I said it was going to be scary. It was not that scary.
There were little jumps.
There were some
few jumps.
There was a little bit.
Have you seen Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter? Tell us what you'd think. We'd love to hear.
Thanks for listening, and we always appreciate it when you tell a friend about the show. We'll see you again in a week with our next full episode.
This episode was produced by me, Joan Cummins, with Callie Hawkins, Haley Bryant, Jules Losey, and additional support from the President Lincoln's Cottage team. Music for Hugh and Abe was written, performed, and is copyrighted by Clancy Newman.
Q and Abe is made possible by listeners like you. You can support the show by joining Team Lincoln at www.lincolncottage.org, where you can also check out our other online and in-person programming. You can reach us at podcast@lincolncottage.org.
President Lincoln's Cottage is a home for brave ideas. Stay curious.